Interestingly, what is potentially the oldest record of fossils for Megalania are reported to be found in the Zanclean-aged Pliocene rocks of the Chinchilla Sand Formation, meaning that Megalania could have potentially lived as far back as the end of the Neogene period, although the 1918 publication that described the material aren't considered in high regard. Putting the potential Pliocene remains aside, the earliest Pleistocene Megalania fossils date back to the Chibanian stage of the Pleistocene epoch. And during that time, sea levels fell due to a vast amount of water being stored in the high Arctic and Antarctic regions, creating a temporary land bridge between Australia, Tasmania, and New Guinea. This would later lead to the birth of the last ice age. The climate during that time was cycling rapidly in Australia, with icehouse phases creating both temperate and arid conditions. The flora at this time were well suited to dry conditions, but the environment constantly changed as a result of rapid change in seasons. This included forests, grasslands, and deserts. The flora itself during Megalania's time was almost, if not, no different than today, consisting of plants like the famous eucalyptus, various kinds of pine trees, horsetails, ferns, grasses, and other flowering and non-flowering plants. Megalania was one of 3 apex predators present in its environment, believed to have lived in the open forest, woodlands, and grasslands, and it would have preyed on various different types of megafauna living in its environment during that time. Looking at the closest relatives of Megalania, such as lizards like the lace monitor, we can see that these animals are adapted to swim and climb trees. Going off their lifestyle, and as is evident from young Komodo dragons, it's entirely possible that young Megalania would have been capable of climbing trees for protection and prey on whatever is or was adapted for arboreal lifestyles, such as the likes of the genus Pseudamis, rats, common bush-tail possums, and quolls on rare occasion. Young Megalania would have likely remained arboreal until they were big enough to defend themselves and hunt larger prey items, such as bandicoots, smaller extinct and extant kangaroos like the modern-day red and eastern gray kangaroos, extinct koala relatives, thylacines, emus, goannas, and young crocodilians. The parenti, another close relative of Megalania, are known to be the fastest of monitor lizards. They have a high amount of stamina, which enables them to chase down prey for a very long time. This makes them endurance hunters. Comparing their stamina to Megalania, however, Megalania would have likely been slower due to their size and heavy build. Because of this, it's considered Megalania would have been an ambush predator, waiting for the prey to come close enough for the predator to strike, where the animal would also attempt to chase down their prey as the venom does the work, as seen in Komodo dragons. As they grow older, Megalania would have gotten large enough to tackle Australia's biggest megafauna and compete with other large apex predators that also inhabited its environment. Adult Megalania hunted prey like large kangaroos such as Protemnodon, as well as the short-faced Procoptodon, the giant wombats Phascolanus and Cephalaskamis, the completely extinct Diprotodons like Diprotodon itself and Uoenia, and the giant dromornithid bird Genyornis. While Megalania was indeed the largest predator in its ecosystem, they still would have had to compete with quite a few predators throughout their lives. Young Megalania competed with the giant 2-foot-long skink Chilicula frongens and would have likely had to worry about larger predators like the famous marsupial lion Thylacoleo, the giant Wanambi, one of the last Matsoid snakes, as well as crocodilians like Paludirex, the modern saltwater crocodile, and the terrestrial Quincana, all of which would have served as competition for adults. Thylacoleo and Quincana in particular, despite hunting the same prey and competing for the same food, were still dwarfed in size by the adult Megalanias and more than likely backed down from their kill depending on the size of the individual. Additionally, Megalania, like most monitor lizards, were likely solitary hunters, competing with their own kind for territory, mates, and most importantly, food. However, the biggest threat to Megalania and to the other predators it competed with were early humans. Early humans began to migrate in Australia during the unnamed late Pleistocene stage, competing for the same food they preyed on. This then may have led to humans outcompeting the giant lizard later on. Overall, Megalania would have been at the top of its food chain, chasing down prey twice or nearly triple the size, and going head-to-head with some of Australia's other giant predators.